Hi guys, this is Harshit Bhardwaj. If you can see me live, yes, I am live now. I can see myself. Yes, I am live now. Okay, so in the previous class we were doing The Ladder and the Swan. So we'll try to finish The Ladder and the Swan by W.B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, and we'll try doing a couple of more poems. So I'll just wait for you guys to come in a bit. Thanks for your patience. I appreciate you hanging on. These are the initial few weeks hiccups, initial few days hiccups, I hope, where I figure out the best way, because I have never done these classes before like this. I've only just done live right away. So let's say if we can, yeah, we can do all that. Okay, cool. So in the previous class, I talked about some of the phrases used for the aggressor and the phrases used for the victim in this poem. Okay, so there are two characters in here. One who's the aggressor. It could be Zeus, it could be anyone else. Another is the victim. So like Leda is the victim and the swan is the aggressor. So if we, let me highlight, underline those phrases for the aggressor. The great wings, the dark webs, the feathered glory, white rush, the brute blood of the air, the indifferent beak. Right? Good morning everyone who's watching. Those who are not, you can watch it in the recordings. Okay, so these are the underlining for the aggressor. Now I'll underline for the victim. The staggering girl, her helpless breast, terrified vague fingers, loosening thighs, the strange heart, right? Does it make sense? Okay, let me quickly read it up again. A sudden blow, the great wings beating still above the staggering girl, her thighs caressed by the dark webs, her nape caught in his bill. He holds her helpless breast upon his breast. How can those terrified vague fingers push the feathered glory from her loosening thighs? And how can body laid in that white rush but feel the strange heart beating where it lies? A shudder in the loins engenders there the broken wall, the burning roof and tower, and Agamemnon dead. Being so caught up, so mastered by the brute blood of the air, did she put on his knowledge with his power before the indifferent beak could let her drop? Okay, so it ends with a question. Now, this is the reference to mythology, right? We talked about what reference? The Helen of Troy and the Trojan War. So it is said that Helen was the progeny or the result of this consummation between Leda and Zeus, and Helen became the reason for the death of the great king Agamemnon, the great Greek king in the Trojan War, and the entire Troy, so many islands were burned down. So he is saying the result of such an act, such a seemingly random act, can be far-fetching, long-lasting, if we look back to the mythology. That's the mythological reference. Now, what act are we talking about? Are we just talking about a swan seducing and raping a girl, Leda, or is there any other symbolism in it, in here that you can look at? Tell me. I'm reading your chats. I'm sure you must have read around, and I'm sure you must have read it and found out what it means. But still, good morning everyone. Is it clear? Like, is the video clear? Can you see the text clearly? Huh? Oh, Reshmi just deleted. Okay, it is clear. Yes, so one of the versions can, the very straightaway clear interpretation can be Britain and Ireland. So that's why I asked you to read the background. So W.B. Yeats was a revolutionary poet. He was a nationalist, patriotic Irish man, and during those time, Ireland was one of the colonies of Britain, and there was an army. There was a revolutionary group called Irish Revolutionary Army (IRA), which was a banned entity by the British, and British government promised to introduce a bill and in the parliament to give freedom to Ireland, and as a part of a peace treaty. You should read more about this. So as part of a peace treaty with IRA and other fringe groups, they offered that, okay, we'll come to the table, compromise, and we'll give you what you want. But instead of that, they suddenly, out of nowhere, attacked all these groups and killed hundreds and hundreds of revolutionary. So the other poem that we have in the syllabus, Easter 1916, is about that particular incident, that how the British government duped the Ireland while they were waiting for a peace treaty, waiting for a good news. They just, with brute force, they suppressed that. So, yes, there are Easter uprising. Now I only wanted you guys to understand that how a poet or how an author creates a character, creates a mood, right? So when you read something and you feel that this character has negative shades, or this character is coming across as bad, or there is something I don't like about it, because the author is not saying that this is a bad person, or this is a villain, or this is a psychopath, but the choice of words, the choice of phrases, the way he uses symbols and figures of speech, that's what you have to observe very clearly, especially in poetry. So I gave you aggressor and the victim, and we went about trying to find how has he addressed the aggressor. The great wings, the dark webs, the feathered glory, white rush, the brute blood of the air, and indifferent beak. Right? These are the phrases he has used for the aggressor. Let's say for Britain. Then the staggering girl. So Ireland, if we applying this to Ireland and Britain situation, then the Ireland is the staggering girl, described as a helpless female, helpless breast, right? So in this first part, it's all about the force, the brute force, the physical might, where Britain has been described as the great wings, mightily powerful, with dark webs, as in dark intentions and all that there is, and Ireland as a hapless, staggering, physically weak girl. Then, how can those terrified vague fingers push the feathered glory from her loosening thighs? So terrified, vague fingers. So not only they were the terrified, they were also fingers as in the hands or the might of Ireland. It was also vague. The effort was not well orchestrated. They were terrified, vague fingers. And on the other hand, the British army was the feathered army, feathered glory, with lots of historical wins under their belt. Loosening thighs could be loosening grip on the reality. How can body laid in that white rush, because it was done so suddenly, they were just attacked so suddenly, it happened so suddenly, white rush, they were rushed into it. But feel the strange heart beating where it lies. Now this last line questions what exactly Irish people want. Where did their hearts lie? Where were they? He asked the same question in Easter 1916. That first of all we have to figure out where our heart is. Right? Do you want to be with Britain and have a peace treaty, or do you want to completely go for total freedom, independence? You have to figure that out. We are not sure at the moment. We don't know where the strange beating heart lies. And a shudder in the loins. Now, shudder in the loins is the phrase. It's kind of a what do you say in English? Idioms. One of the idioms, or very commonly used slangy idiom. A shudder in the loins can be described as a description of the sexual act, but it also describes that something as not small or as minuscule as a shudder in the loins can result in such a far-fetching and long-lasting event, such as the burning of the entire Greek islands, all the Greek islands, after many years, many decades, like the butterfly effect, right? So, being now last stanza asks a question. कि ठीक है ये सब हुआ. You were attacked. You didn't know. You were too helpless. You were too simple. You did not expect it. Maybe because you really don't know where your heart is, right? That's why you were duped. किसी को बेवकूफ़ कैसे बनाया जाता है? बेवकूफ़ तभी बनाया जाता है when that person is put under confusion. So okay, that happened and it will continue to happen. This is what he is saying. तो अब क्या solution है? क्या कर सकते हैं इसका? Being so caught up, so mastered by the brute blood of the air. ठीक है, forcibly we were won, we were manipulated. Now the question is, did she put on his knowledge with his power before the indifferent beak could let her drop? Did we learn anything out of this or not? And why the indifferent beak? Why the indifferent beak? I normally do not like to explain poems like this, but because this is one of the first, so I'll kind of show you how I approach a new poem, so you can do it from your end. So why the indifferent beak? Indifferent क्यों है? बोलो 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 बोलो. Why indifferent beak? She was aware yet couldn't do anything. No, the indifferent beak is ascribed to Britain, the aggressor. Everyday occurrence for someone powerful like Britain's use. Okay. The word indifferent is very, very powerful word. You know. Indifference is not ignorance. Indifference is not avoidance. Indifference is not... indifference is... we will read about indifference, this idea of indifference, when we'll do W.H. Auden. I think the Unacademy students have already done that. The Musée des Beaux-Arts, the Museum of Fine Arts poem. Britain is indifferent, but Britain is ascribed as indifferent because for them it's not personal. They don't care. They have no sentiments involved. For them, it's just a day's job. But for Ireland, it is extremely, extremely sentimental, extremely subjective, extremely personal. They are extremely attached to this. So the indifferent beak could let her drop. So did she put on his knowledge? Did she learn anything? Ireland. How beautiful, isn't it? Yes, Reshmi, that's absolutely right. So if you see the sentiment of the poem, he's not actually angry at the aggressor. He's asking questions from the victim. Right? The mythological reference simply just is a warning that howsoever small an effect is, a cause is, howsoever small, just a shudder, it can have a long lasting effect, as the history and the mythology shows. Right? Does it make sense? Okay. Okay, let's do the second coming, which is probably one of the most talked about modernist poems. The second coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand.